2 years is a long time to be working on one aspect of your life, Jan, even as a dedicated teacher. Tell me, how have you changed over the course of this program?
Let me take you back to January 2011, Ted. That's when I started researching memory and the part it plays in learning. Did you know that the average person can hold only 7 items in their short-term memory for 13 seconds?
No. Really?
I began wondering about the implications this information would have on teaching. In the article, Efficient Learning for the Poor, it says, we must recognize letters within a few milliseconds, otherwise we cannot hold the messages they convey to our minds long enough to interpret them.
If that's true, it's obviously something to be considered when you're teaching.
Yes, Ted. I began to consider many facets when planning. Students will not learn if they don't immediately recognize and are able to remember the ideas that teachers present to them. Add to this the research from 21learn.org that says the brain is predisposed to learn or develop at different times. If information is not presented at that time, the opportunity to learn fades. What if the moment in time is not right? And what about the kind of environment I am creating? As Gibb said in the article, promoting Tribes TLC, rather than fix kids, transform the environment. Caring community environments give us a way to support learning.
A lot to coordinate. Where did you go from there, Jen?
I started by thinking about influencing a change on my students. I journaled wondering about why the students weren't able to remember spelling patterns. What, in the environment or in their development, was at work? But learning to read, building literacy skills, I learned, isn't just about understanding how memory works, increasing fluency, or automatic recall of spelling rules and patterns. It's also about paying attention. In April 2011, I started trying to construct my understanding of the role attention truly plays in building literacy skills.
Where did you go from there, Jen?
I began thinking about how I could change my teaching in a way that would help the students pay attention to letters and patterns in words, and wondered about what else could I change about the way I taught reading that would create growth in my students.
Interesting, Jan. So you were researching memory and learning and trying to change how you taught.
And then I found Dr. Judy Willis and RadTeach on a webinar. As a neurologist and teacher, Dr. Willis integrated her knowledge of brain functioning with optimal learning and teaching practices.
Do tell.
Most crucial for me was learning about the importance of attending to patterns when a student is learning to read, being able to rapidly and automatically recognize those patterns to allow learning to take place. It totally changed the structure of my support blocks.
But what about technology and your practice and technology that you could use with your students?
Technology in my practice honestly hadn't changed much, but I was being exposed to new ideas that could be used with students. With what I was learning about through my research and my desire to grow and change in my practice, I stepped into the technology world that would purposefully support my students' learning. I carefully selected some pattern reinforcing applications for my iPad. I found some engaging learning games online and on discs. And I began using my voice, color, and repetitive activities to create fluency and reinforce and draw attention to patterns in language. As well, I was using my blog on a fairly consistent basis, and so I thought, why not use it with some of my older students? These students struggled to spell with accuracy to the point that their writing was extremely difficult to interpret. The blogging was an epic failure. The students hated writing. They did not see themselves as writers. So I had managed to engage them with a concept, but failed to create an environment where they wanted to hone their writing skills.
It seems to me like you did learn something from that attempt to blog with your students, Jan. You learned that engagement needs to be considered when planning for teaching. But you also must carefully consider the technological tool to use and the impact the activity will have on individual students.
Ted, I didn't realize that you knew anything about TPAC. Have you worked with Neil before? No, probably not. But you are right that I needed to consider the pedagogical purpose, the content, the technology to be used, as well as the knowledge to be imparted. As much as I used to try to refine my teaching plans before putting them into practice, I realized now that there is so much more to consider.
Is that the end of your story, Jan?
Absolutely not, Ted. For the last term of this program, I have been trying to develop learning logs with my students and teach them to set goals. It has been intense. I was trying to guide students in setting personal and meaningful goals to develop their literacy. In Evernote, while reading the article, Teachers Learn to Set Goals, I wrote this: routine assessment is a key component of the process. When anyone is trying to learn, feedback about the effort has 3 elements. Recognize the desired goal, evidence about present position, some understanding of a way to close the gap between the two. And then I journaled. Maybe this is where I need to improve. Do I have a strong understanding of the student's skill base? Do I know how to get them to where they want to be? How much of what I do is guiding and how much is me imposing what I think is right? What will the impact be on their engagement and motivation to learn? It's a process, Ted. I feel like I'm heading in the right direction, guiding students to make personal goals, using my understanding of memory and the part it plays in learning, and integrating technology that will support student learning. I shared my learning, the goal-setting process I took students through, and learning logs with my colleagues. I am open to trying new things and hope to be part of a change within my school.
Fascinating, Jan. Is that where your story ends?
Yes, Ted. But the journey will continue.